Hello and welcome to another episode 8 of Tea in the Garden. Ooh, it feels like everything on our social media timelines in our life right now is tea. And it's a little bit bitter right now. It's a little bit bitter. So we wanted to come in here and not speak so directly about what the collective is feeling right now, what's going on in areas of social media change, in political change. We want to, though, discuss our feelings. We're here to talk about our feelings. So, we're starting in today with the fact that any fear and anger you might be feeling right now is valid, but we cannot dwell in that fear and anger. And we're going to get into why. Lauren said something so profound yesterday as we were meeting with our apprentices and preceptors and students, like we do at the beginning of every week. And I was like, wow, there it is. Hit him with it.
Boom. So what I said yesterday was that you need to reserve your anger because you never know who's using it.
Bars.
Yeah.
What does
Yeah.
that mean?
Um, so our emotions are powerful, right? Our emotions are powerful and they are energy centers, right? They are the things that motivate us to do things or not do things. So when we are in our emotions and completely um taken over by them sometimes, or when we feel them very deeply, especially fear, anger, we can be motivated into doing things or not doing things that do not serve us.
Or others?
Right. And that it can be used, we can be kind of used as pawns in things that we don't completely know we're a part of or in.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so especially um, in my personal opinion, right now, what's happening so much, so blatantly in the world, everywhere. I mean, it's everywhere you look. We are being told you need to be afraid of this. You do not have any power over this. You can't do that. So and so did this. So and so did that. This is being taken away. Oh, it's given back. All of these different things happening. And obviously these people are feeling very strong, very big emotions, right? And however people are feeling, there's a reason behind that. For each and every different person, there's a reason. They have a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even mean to say it in air quotes. I say it in air quotes because it is a reason, but your reason can be used against you.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And so I feel like when people get into those emotions and then kind of get stuck in those emotions of feeling it, feeling it, feeling it, feeling it, feeling it, being in it, being in it, being in it, being in it, it begins to take over the way that we see the world. It begins to affect in a negative way the decisions that we can make for ourselves. Um,
What we think is
and
power,
Mm-hmm.
but what
yeah,
we think are limitations on our power and sovereignty.
right, exactly. And so, but there's a lot of stuff that's happening that we have not not a complete grasp on,
Right.
right? There's so many things happening in the media. There's so many things happening um, in our awareness and what we're told. But then there's three, four, five, even sometimes six layers behind that of what is actually going on. You know what I
Totally.
mean?
You use the word pawn, and I
So,
think that's so appropriate.
which
Yeah. And
word?
Pawn.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like anger, holding on to anger. It's different to experience present anger in a moment of
Injustice.
injustice, righteous anger, a protective anger, a survival need in the actual moment. But when we hold on to anger, it's like swallowing poison and expecting it to harm our enemy.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And it is one of the most destructive things we can hold in our body. Not to say there isn't a place for it, but when we hold it and when it brews and it's things that, like you said, there we really don't know we're being fueled to feel, and we really don't know what's actually true, what's actually real, we have to take a step back and realize that regulating ourselves and our nervous system is one of the most important things we can do. I mean, we've talked about it on this podcast actually before, related to other topics, where we have to be able to ground in our bodies, in our own sovereignty, to really know that regardless of any perceived privilege or lack of privilege, policy change, injustices, do you want to live your life feeling that you are powerless? Is the simple question. Do you want to feel like you're powerless over those areas of your life, or do you want to live in power and make whatever you need to happen for yourself, no matter what it takes? That self-established sovereignty comes from being like a very regulated person, right? Really doing the internal work to know how to navigate this crazy world, and I think too, I was just reading in Conversations with God this morning, the fourth book that I haven't read yet, and it's talking about the awakening of the species. And yeah, we hear this topic a lot in the spiritual realm, but I really like the perspective it brought up, that we are already awakened. Like, you listening to this, us sitting here, and actually everyone else, even those we perceive as asleep or not awakened, are already awakened. We're only awakening to the fact that we've always been awakened. It's not something that is unnatural for us. It's actually our natural state. It's only through distraction that we forget it. It's only through having our energy and power distracted, taken away, pointed in different directions, right? Our attention put on different things, that we forget that in the first place. And when we really come back into ourselves, into our bodies, we can see things much clearly for what they are, and understand that there's a lot we may never know the truth behind. Is that actually benefiting our lives? Like, does it help my life, or even those of my immediate intimate community, for me to marinate on political unrest right now? Is that actually something that I can affect? If so, to what capacity? Where is my attention actually helping that in any way?
We have too many people who are in fear and anger, and not enough who are regulated in their nervous system actually doing something because of the
My
distractions.
my grandmother had a saying, and this just makes me feel like super Southern, but my grandmother had a saying, and it was like, worrying is like sitting in a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but you don't get anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
That
and
is very
and that's what happens when we're spinning in these emotions, right? We're doing something, we're expending so much energy, we're putting so much mental focus on the things that we don't want, that us
Mhm.
just thinking about it in that moment isn't going to do anything. It's not going to help anybody.
right.
Spinning in it and spinning in it and spinning in it, it just dysregulates us.
The life of an emotion is 12 minutes.
Oh, that's
Psychologically, yeah. And everything beyond that, like we were talking about present emotion, psychologically, it is studied to be 12 minutes. And not to say it can't be reignited, right? But anything beyond that is said to be, in the field of psychology, self-perpetuated.
Wow.
Right?
That's really interesting. It kind of reminds me of the concept in the spiritual lineages of like the difference between pain and suffering.
Ooh.
And it's talked a lot about in Buddhism and Hinduism, especially, like this idea that pain is a part of life inherently, but suffering is not required. And that is the distinction. Suffering is very different from pain.
I got a hot take on this. We're talking about, you asked the question, do you want to live a life where you feel disempowered? Do you want to suffer? And my hot take is, I think a lot of people unconsciously want that. Why the fuck would they want that? Because they don't.
Because it's normal.
It's what they know.
Normal. It's maybe what their friends are doing, and they don't believe that they have the capacity or ability to do differently. We're here to tell you today that you absolutely do.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't make you, it doesn't mean anything. We don't have to create these stories that if I don't stay tuned into the news, I am out of touch with human beings and their suffering, and I'm not being compassionate. I'm not being a good part of community. None of that is a reality. It's a story. And you can see that some of the biggest change makers in the world do not participate in the mainstream means of participation or caring, yet have some of the greatest impacts we've ever seen.
That's because
Mm-hmm.
they prioritize the regulation of their nervous system.
And
Mm-hmm.
tangible action that they can actually take in their real communities.
Mm-hmm.
There is this podcast episode I listened to a long time ago that was talking about how globalization of suffering, like having the access at our fingertips in this generation to knowing every problem happening in every corner of the world, is one of the most damaging things we've ever experienced psychologically as human beings. Now, of course, there are pros and cons, right? But the
Mm-hmm.
con is that we are not wired for that level of information on things that we actually have no personal ability to transform, change, participate in, and be a part of. So our beings, our DNA, our brains are centered in tribe.
Mm-hmm.
This can take many forms. This tribe could be your town. This tribe could be your academy. This tribe could be your family. This tribe could be your state, depending on who you are and what you're involved in, right? And many other forms. But if you don't have a good grasp of who are my tribes and who can I actually serve effectively, you will lose complete sight of, I would even argue, the ability to feel any type of hope or ability to take, empowered action on anything. And what happens to our brain literally is that we cannot compute all of these streams of suffering and information. It inundates our brain, it inundates our nervous system and our body to total overwhelm. It quite literally creates that what's it called, cognitive dissonance,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where we see things and we just think, well, somebody else is going to do something about it. In tribe culture, where we all come from, no matter where we're from, we come from indigenous people,
Mm-hmm.
we solve problems as a collective. If somebody was being abused in a household, the entire village heard it and had counsel about it, spoke to the abuser and the abusee, and solved it as a tribe because it was tangible, it was part of the community, and something could be
Mm-hmm.
done about it.
Mm-hmm.
We're in this total freeze response, right? As a society, we're in a freeze response or in a very unhelpful fight or flight response instead of being able to solve it from a regulated state.
I have a relevant meme.
What does it say?
Sorry I missed your text. I am processing a nonstop 24/7 onslaught of information with a brain designed to eat berries in a cave.
Yeah. Oh, my life
Really?
makes so much sense with that meme. But
Yeah.
the
And
Caro has a
oh, go ahead.
sorry. The Caro has a saying in our tribe that says like today for you, tomorrow for me. And it's
Mm,
like
I love
today I'm going to help build your house. Tomorrow you'll help me build mine, you know? And so it is in that tribe setting, it is very your nervous system gets very regulated by being in community, being in tribe.
I want to give the example too. Actually, I feel like it's so relevant. The California fires that just happened.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm from, for those that don't know. And
Literally from
actually,
Topanga.
literally my old home almost got burned down. Tons of my friends and loved ones' houses were lost in the fire.
Mm.
And it was the worst fire, the whole greater LA region has seen in almost a century, I believe. And as a result of such tragedy, there was obviously so much pain and loss in that. However, it has been so beautiful to see how humans respond in community when they can actually do things. And it's a perfect example of what we're talking about. After the fires, I can't even tell you how many thousands of people in LA whom did not have their homes affected, gathered food, made home cooked meals, donated their clothes all over LA on the streets. There were pop-ups in all these parking lots and restaurants giving out free food to all the firefighters, anyone that's home has been affected, people opening up their home to strangers, people
Wow.
who own hotels letting all the people stay in their rooms for free. That is such a beautiful example of actually the human heart.
Mhm.
People do care. People do love each other. People do want to step up when they can actually do something, when it's really in
Mhm.
their community and they're able to take action on it. And I think it's so important for us to remember where those zones are in our lives, right? It's not about isolation or shutting down or just doing you and being selfish. It's actually quite the opposite. You have to be so discerning what you point your energy to and what you can actually affect, right?
Mhm.
Mhm. I'd
Yeah.
like to revise my previous statement a little bit based on what you say. I definitely believe at the core, most people are inherently good. And I was saying, like, my hot take, people want to stay powerless.
Yeah.
But I think, like you're saying, so many people, we fail to realize that when we look at the broad scheme of everything going wrong and poorly and injustice in the world, we actually, in a way, kind of are powerless to solve every problem,
Right.
but we are not powerless in every
Our real
place.
lives.
Right.
That's the truth. We're not powerless in our real lives.
Mhm.
Our real lives, every day to day, how we choose to interact with other humans around us, how we choose to interact with our family, how we choose to interact with ourselves, our loved ones, our employees, our boss, whatever, right? Like we have so much effect on all of those things. And that's the very zone that most of us don't want to look at.
Why?
Because, like you said, there is such a truth to it. We, our brain immediately wants to stay in non accountability and non-responsibility because it's much easier. Let's be real. Everyone listening to this, us three know this too well. It's much easier than owning your shit. Why do you think the beginning stage of like having your awakening is so excruciatingly painful? Because
Depression.
you you realize you actually did create your own suffering, like
Mhm.
entirely
Yeah.
it's you. And it's simultaneously excruciating, but also so empowering and so worth it. Right.
Freeing.
And but it's a
Yeah.
hard thing for our mind to grasp. Very hard thing
Mhm.
for our mind to grasp initially.
Mhm.
I was on that note, Lauren, earlier you were talking about thought.
Controlling the
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah. Talk to us.
Don't make me geek out, okay? Um, so as you guys know, I'm obsessed with the mind and the spirit and how it affects energy and how it affects our reality. And so I've actually been really working on in my personal life teaching my daughter this, my 6-year-old. She just had, a whole experience. She had to be kept in Arnold Palmer for 3 days. And she was freaking out. And I talk to her. I always say that she's my little baby shaman, right? And I talk to her. I try to really impart to her the lessons that I feel like she needs to know for life. Like I love treating her like my little baby. She is my 6-year-old. But at the same time, I try to like teach her things. And what I've been talking to her about lately is you can't just allow the thoughts that pop into your head to be the things that you give your attention to. We have to control our thoughts because if we're constantly just allowing ourselves to dwell on the things that are not working, which is what we're designed to do for, um, you know, survival purposes, if we allow ourselves to just become a victim of our lower mind, the
Mhm.
survival part of our mind, we're going to constantly be miserable.
Yeah.
We're going to constantly be thinking about, what we're afraid of or what might happen or what's not going to work out. What do we need? Who's doing this? What's happening here? It can take over and you can be miserable all the time. And so if we're aware that, hey, I don't have to give every single thing that I think weight. I don't have to continue to go down the rabbit hole of every single thing I think. It allows you to begin choosing what you're thinking, which it does take practice, right? And that's what I'm trying to teach her early. So she doesn't have to make the same mistakes that I did, right? And figure it out this way. She can make new mistakes. That's what I always tell her, anyways. You know, if we begin to start doing the work of choosing the thoughts that we think very consciously, being like, okay, brain, you've told me this 27 times. There's nothing that I can do about this, or there's nothing that I can do about this right now, or this may be true, but it's not helpful. And I'm going to choose to think about or look for what is working in my reality. And what do I have an effect on? What can I use my conscious will and choice on right now? Oh my God. Like you gain so much power back, you gain so much energy back, right? And you get to decide and start choosing and start actually making decisions and choices and actions in your reality that can change something and or allow you to be present and enjoy what you have, what is working, you know? So by controlling the thought, and then also we work with her on controlling her breath. So just breathing. I learned this a long time ago. Smell the roses, blow out the candles. So that's how we do it for Livy. You know, we smell the roses, we think about the positive things in our lives, and we blow out the candles. We release that breath nice and slow. So by becoming aware, like, okay, I'm dysregulated, I'm freaking out, I'm having some anxiety here, I'm angry and I've been angry for a long time, or you know, this or that, whatever emotion. Let me start to take control of this again. What thoughts am I thinking right now? Do I have any control over that? Is that absolutely true? Is that helpful? No? Okay, let's move on. What are the things that I need to be thinking about? What are the things that I do have control over? What are the things that I'm grateful for? What are the things that are working out for me? And controlling the breath, literally smelling roses and blowing out the candles, we can begin to regulate our nervous system again. And
Great
when
time.
your nervous system is regulated, you're harder to manipulate, you're smarter, you make better decisions.
This is a great time to plug the importance of meditation.
Hmm.
When I teach meditation, because a lot of people think that it's mindfulness, it's like being aware of what's going on or your thoughts. Meditation is actually a mindlessness. It is getting to the space of just a thoughtless awareness. But to get there,
Hmm.
often when someone starts a meditation practice, maybe for the first time, you sit down and every thought you've been avoiding immediately bum rushes you.
Yeah.
And you look at them, right? You want to choose your thoughts, you got to look at them. And you then slowly, I kind of give the visual of a thought comes in, we smell the roses, we blow the candles, and we release like a floating lantern. We release it. And then another will come. If you have 20 things in your mind, 20 thoughts going on that you're not looking at, that you're staying distracted from, you're going to need to release 20 lanterns. And then finally come to that place of mindlessness, just that pure awareness. So if this sounds like something, what Lauren's talking about is something that you are like, yeah, I think that I want to do that. I think that I want to be less manipulatable. You got to start a meditation practice, man.
Yeah. I also love the visual of a lot of times where I picture myself is laying on the banks of my favorite river, like the Ganga in India, and I see all the things arising in my mind as like wood or pieces of things drifting down the river, and like just watch them, right? Just witness them go by and allow them to keep moving, because that's all they need to do is keep moving. You know, there's no permanence to them whatsoever. And it's only when we think that there is permanence to a thought or emotion that stories get created, that devastation gets created, that suffering gets created, that attachment and identity with it gets created, right? You know, on this note, I was reading the 12 laws of the universe, and one of them, I believe you can correct me, I think it was called the law of correspondence. And pretty much all
It's
about,
my favorite.
it's all about the fact that there is always an opposite perspective or a different perspective on things, right? We may think, nothing is going right for me today. I got a speeding ticket on the way to work. I dropped my coffee and the mug shattered. I'm so angry. My boyfriend didn't give me flowers that I wanted. And there's a homeless person that just wishes they had a house to drop coffee in, and wishes they had a car to drive, and that they had somebody that loved them, right?
Mhm.
So it's all about remembrance of that. We can do it in such a graceful way where we don't gaslight ourselves, but we remember really what we have, and the relevance of our problems and our suffering, and the perspective shifts that we can
Mhm.
take on it in any moment, that we can always transmute it. We can always transform how we are seeing things. We do not control what happens all the time and how it happens. Like look at where we're at right now, what a lot of people are thinking about and upset about in the United States right now. We don't have control of all of those behaviors and actions and choices, but we can control how we perceive it and what we do with it, right? In our own lives.
Mhm.
And that's all we can do.
You can only do what you can do, and that is what you should do. And everything else is
Mm,
mm.
mm,
It was so good. So good.
Everything
mm.
else is a distraction from the power and impact you can actually have.
Mhm.
Hmm. Hmm.
Which again, you need to be able to do that. You gotta have a regulated nervous system and a clear enough mind.
Oh,
Hmm.
one more practice I just thought of that I would love to share with everyone is a super cool connection, very somatic practice, but also has a really beautiful connection to the dharmic path. Um, your vagus nerve is quite literally activated, which is responsible for regulating your nervous system predominantly, is activated through humming, also AKA chanting, singing, stimming with your voice. And there is a minor chakra that is your vagus nerve. Your entire vagus nerve is a minor chakra, and it's considered to be the most important of all the minor chakras. It's almost like a one of the 7 major chakras of importance. And we can activate and change so much somatically, even if your mind is really running rampant and hijacking you. This happens to me. If I'm really feeling anxious about something and it continues to linger, sometimes I can't just meditate or I can't just do any one practice, but
Hmm.
something that has helped me so much is humming, chanting, and listening to mantra, like tuning into the frequency of mantra, humming along with it, or generating some type of sound that starts to just physically transform me. Like my mind isn't really a part of it, but it takes over my body and brings me into a whole different state. And then I can process effectively, right? So
Hmm.
that's a really, really cool, easy, very helpful tool that you can use when you are really feeling hijacked.
You can check out our YouTube channel. We have some of
Yeah.
that there, or anywhere on YouTube. Just type in mantra chanting or ohms. You can just
Do om.
hit a ohm.
Yeah, hit a om.
You can sing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like there's so many different paths to regulation, right? And so one piece of advice that I would give is, try a few different things, right? For me personally, I love the chanting. I've tried that before. I've used that before. Humming, used that before. Um, I also like sometimes just going out in nature.
Oh yeah.
That makes such a difference too, because we're hardwired to be in nature. Like it's not natural for us to be inside all of the time.
Yeah, right now in Michigan, it is six
Yeah, I
degrees.
know it's freezing. I'm sorry. I live in Florida.
It certainly is very grounding to go outside
Yeah.
because you have to be in
Yeah.
your body when you're
It's actually
freezing.
really therapeutic, and
Hmm.
I realized only through living here like what sunrooms are actually for.
Hmm.
When you're
Yeah,
in,
to get some sun.
actually still have that connection to nature and sunlight,
Hmm.
Hmm.
but you have a semi heat regulated space. It's a really
Yeah.
great meeting ground, I feel like, for
And
for grounding.
Ours in particular is grounded. Like it's just like dirt right under the rock that is the sunroom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And my on that note, Lauren, my professors in Ayurveda school, and I stole this, like I love it so much. They always called it vitamin N, which is
Mm-hmm.
vitamin D, and like prescribing that to your clients. And so often, even in my Ayurveda practice previously, I have quite literally prescribed it. Like, yeah, I'll give
Yeah.
you herbs and stuff, but you need vitamin N. Like, I really go practice it. You need to be out
That
taking walks every day.
Yeah, that's so funny. That's almost one homework that I give to every single person who has a shamanic healing. And I teach my students that too. Like, you need time in nature. You need that grounding. You need that reconnection. And it makes such a difference on our nervous systems, just to unplug and be around other living things
Nothing can
makes
take
a
the place,
difference.
honestly.
It's
Hmm.
isn't it like a shamanic saying when someone is sick, the first thing that you ask is, when is the last time you were swimming? When is the last time you sang? When is the last time you
Hmm.
danced?
Mhm.
These are
Hmm.
all nervous system regulating
System
acts.
regulating. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so beautiful. So yeah, ladies, any last tips or thoughts on this topic that you want to share with everyone?
I just want to say that we are here with you. We have very justice based hearts, and there's so much nuance. And like Prasiddha was saying, two sides of every coin to what's going on. We have Pluto newly in Aquarius, and things
Still got
are
to go down.
things have just sort of begun. So what we're talking about here today is not just, oh, we needed something to talk about on our podcast. We are putting this out as like an emergency PSA. Please, these things that we're talking about are simple, but they are of the utmost importance right now to our health and our ability to help ourselves, our families, our communities, and the collective. So if you're listening, that is definitely something that's important to you. Please prioritize the regulation of your nervous system and the thoughts that you choose to invest in right now. It's literally the most important thing that you can be doing right now.
Stop making excuses for tending to your spirit.
Hmm.
We do not give excuses for brushing our teeth every day. Do you feel guilty about taking time to brush your fucking teeth every day or take a shower or eat some food? It's like you don't even think about it because you know it's required fuel for your body. Where and how are you fueling your spirit? It is required every day.
It's
It
almost
is.
like, yeah, it's almost like, and trigger warning, talking about domestic violence, right? But it's almost like when someone has been in an abusive relationship for so long that once they just get someone who actually just cares
Yeah.
about them, they're
Mhm.
like, oh my God, what? Like
Mhm.
we've been in uh, an abusive society for
Yeah.
so long that we don't know what's just necessary, what's just normal. We've been
Healthy.
living in survival for so long, right?
Mhm.
That it's like, oh my God, wait, nature? What? Think, not thinking about everything that's going on wrong in the world all of the time. What? Like, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's a paradigm shift,
Mhm.
but a very necessary one if you would
Hmm.
like peace, fulfillment, and bliss in your life. That's for sure.
And the ability
Yeah.
to enact change
Yeah,
and help
exactly.
and actually help.
Hmm. So true. So true, besties.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's the tea today, y'all.
Good talk, y'all.
A little bitter, but very hot,
Hmm.
like us.
Hopefully you guys really enjoyed this episode. Feel free to comment on it on YouTube and Spotify. Let us know what topics you'd like to hear from next. Next episode, episode 9, which is really cool because we're in year 9 and it's also my life path number. We are talking about past lives. So make sure to subscribe to our podcast and follow us. We are going to have really cool conversations. I think some stuff all three of us have not talked about publicly in
Yeah.
detail from our own experiences and understandings of that topic, and it's going to be very lit. So come through for that.
I'm
Yes.
a priestess in Atlantis in my past life.
Oh, no.
I'd love to head up the part of like people getting carried away with that shit.
Yeah, we will definitely talk about that. We will definitely talk about that. All right.
Oh,
Bye, everyone.
bye.